Hello, and welcome back to Entrepreneur Talks podcast. This is season 4. Thank you for being with us through all the previous seasons, and we're gonna have more fun and inspirational stories for you to hear on season 4. My name is Yola Bastos. I'm one of the co-founders of WomenFlix Network Community. We are focused on empowering and motivating women around the world to achieve their dreams. We mainly support them through coaching, business strategies, and workshops. Our aim is to build connections that will increase the power of women in collaboration and be able to create space for growth and expand our knowledge. Find more about WomenFlix through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can find us always by WomenFlix. I also want to say welcome to my guests on this new season. And I hope for my listeners to enjoy every episode and get in touch with each of my guests through the information that will be available on each podcast episode description. My guest for today's podcast is Tyler Christensen. Tyler is a teacher, author, speaker, entrepreneur, and family man. He has spent 15 years in classrooms, middle school, and university instructor. Tyler is the founder of a national recruiting service for student athletes, an academic journal for those preparing to teach, and a web design firm specializing in celebrity websites. He has published 2 books and will publish this summer the 3rd book called Unlocking the Power of Transformation. Let's welcome Tyler and hear his story and be inspired. Hello, Tyler. Welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thanks, Yola. So good to be here.
Oh, thank you so much as well. So before we start, tell me where you're calling from?
I'm just outside Las Vegas in southern Utah in the United States. So it's beautiful here right now.
Oh, that's amazing. Far away from me. I'm in London. That's cute. And how is the lockdown going on in your country?
So in the United States, it really varies from state to state. Here in our state, things have been really loose. So a lot of people are out just like life is normal and not seeing as many masks anymore. And a lot of people are back to work. But I personally, I'm being a little more cautious. So we're still mostly here at home most of the time and taking all the precautions that we need to.
Right. I believe you got kids. That's why it's one of the reasons we tend to be more precaution, right?
Yeah. Well, and my youngest daughter has asthma, and so her lungs are already compromised. So we're not taking any chances.
Yes, definitely no. That's good. I hope she's all right, but it's a good thing. It's a good way that the way you're doing is good. So tell me about your story. You've been doing some things here that I could read about yourself. Tell me who you are.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I'm a teacher and a father. Those are, my primary responsibilities. But as an entrepreneur, I'm always dabbling in side businesses and trying new things out. So I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I am a web designer, a sports writer. I do online product reviews. So I'm kind of all over the map, just keeping busy doing really interesting things.
Right, yes, like exactly like me. I do so many things.
Hmm.
And that's good. And how long you been? So what exactly? So you've been a teacher. What kind of teacher or teaching what?
Yeah, so actually, my teaching journey has kind of gone backwards from what most people do. I started out as, well, I taught middle school while I was going to graduate school, but then as I worked through graduate school, I became a professor, and I taught in teacher education for about 10 years at the university level. And then just a few years ago, decided to step away from that and go back into the elementary classroom. So now I'm a fifth grade teacher, and I've been doing that for a few years, and I'm loving it.
Oh wow, what made you change like that, like from university to elementary?
Yeah, it was mostly circumstance. As I mentioned, my daughter has asthma, and in the place we were living before, she spent a lot of time in the hospital because of environmental factors. There were different things in the air that were making it hard for her to breathe. So we decided as a family we needed to make a move. So we moved all the way across the country to a more deserty area where she'd be able to breathe better. And I thought I would easily get hired at the university there to teach. And I didn't. I applied for the job and I didn't get it. And so I just started looking for other teaching positions and went to an elementary school and asked if they needed, another male teacher. And they were happy to give me a chance at that school. And I've been there ever since. So it was kind of just fell into it.
Oh, that's amazing. Because without knowing, you just jump to another level of teaching and you enjoy it, actually.
Yeah.
Enjoy
Yeah, I really am. It's very different teaching at the university level than at the elementary, but I love it for different reasons, but I love it.
And that's the reason. So I believe that you are the founder of a national recruiting service for student athletes. Is related with became like this dream or this vision came up with this new job?
No, I've been a sports writer for a number of years now. I started just blogging about my favorite college football team, and my blog grew and grew, and I started getting requests to write for other blogs and then for the newspaper, and I became kind of a recruiting specialist. And with all the things that I was learning about recruiting, I decided to create my own service. So I set up a website called D1 Recruiting and just started offering high school students information about the recruiting process and what they should do and just, trying to help them out. I ended up writing a book about how to contact college coaches. And it was just one of these things that I just did on the side just because I was interested in college football. So it just kind of was one of those small things that just kept growing and growing. And now it's a pretty big thing.
Wow. So it's a lot of people requesting your services.
Yeah, and I've kind of pivoted out. Before I was helping like design profiles and helping add exposure and things like that. And that was just too time intensive for me. So I've shut down that part of the business and now I'm just writing articles and giving information. So it's more of an information business now and it doesn't take as much time. So it's really nice to be able to do on the side when I have the time for it, but it's not a high priority.
Wow. So I believe, Tyler, that you are a person of like love to write, right?
Kind of. When I was a professor, you have to write because you have to publish articles in journals and write book chapters and things like that. So I've been writing and publishing for quite some time, but the academic writing was never very fulfilling to me. It wasn't until I started doing sports writing and writing my own books where I realized, I do love to write, but I want to be able to choose what I write about, not be dictated through my job. And so I do love writing some kinds of things and I hate writing other things.
Yes, because you've been in different type of like different jobs, but they are all related in some way with writing. And you also wrote 2 books, right?
Right. Yeah, the first one was the one I just mentioned where it was for high school students who are looking to contact college coaches. And that was just a short ebook. I didn't know much about writing at the time, but it was a way to kind of experience writing, putting something up on Amazon and Kindle. And so great experience. And then that helped prepare me to write my next books. I wrote a book last year about doing product reviews, and we can talk about that if you want. And then I'm wrapping up a book right now on transformation, and that's more of a personal development book.
And that one, the developed one, is going to come out this year.
Yeah, next month. So we're
Okay.
getting ready to launch.
Oh, that's amazing. You need to send me the details whenever it comes up. You just send me the email. I would love to because I like that kind of book. I normally
Sure.
end up reading, it's my type of book. I like to read developing books. But the other one that you mentioned before, can you tell me something more about that book that you wrote?
Yeah. So when we moved, it was about 4 years ago when we moved across the country. And as I mentioned, I didn't get the job that I thought I would get. And so there was a period of time where I was unemployed, and I started getting nervous as Christmas was approaching because we didn't have very much money. And so I started looking for different ways to get gifts for my children. And my younger brothers had been doing product reviews online where companies would just send them products and they would write a review on Amazon or take pictures of it and post it on social media, and then they would get to keep the products. And so I asked my little brother about that, and he told me how to get started, and I started reaching out so that I could get gifts for my kids. Well, within a year or two, I had reviewed over 500 things. I'd made several $1,000s doing reviews,
Wow.
and the total value of the things I'd received equaled over $10,000. And so a lot of people then started asking me, how did you get all these things? Because most of the stuff I'd review, I'd just give it away. As a school teacher, I give it away to my students in class auctions, and so they have things to work towards. And so I was giving away drones and backpacks and skateboards and musical instruments. And so people would ask me all the time, how can you afford to get these things? And I would say, well, I don't. I get paid to get these things. I just have to put forth a little bit of work to promote them on social media. And so rather than answering everyone's questions all the time, I just wrote a book and shared how to do it. It's just called How to Get Free Stuff. And it just walks you through the process of how to grow a brand. So starting from scratch, how do you get followers on Twitter and Instagram, things like that? How do you contact and connect with companies so that they'll send you stuff? And then what do you do for the actual reviews? And so I'm still doing that. I don't do it as much now. I mostly just do it to get things for my students. But like I'll still review a few things every month, and it's keeping, it's fun to do, and there's some benefits there.
Wow, I'm really interested. I need that link for your book. That's just it's like we can call that passive income.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and honestly, it is passive income because a lot of the reviews, I'm not doing nearly as many anymore because I'm busy with other products.
Right.
But with the video reviews that I've done on YouTube, I use an affiliate link so you can buy the products that I review. And I'm still making $20, $30, $40 a month in passive income because people are watching my videos, clicking on the links and buying the products. So even though for reviews that I did years and years ago, I'm still making a little bit of money each month.
That's fantastic. Tyler, put me on your link, please. Put me on your team that I'm going to do it. I love to be on video, do reviews. I don't mind, but it's really interesting. I heard about this before, but I didn't know that is a way that you can actually do this to make, because I know sometimes some companies just get in touch with me to make a review, but it's one or other. But actually you can have a place where you go there and a link or a website, and I can just choose whatever I want to review and I earn money. Is that right?
Right. Yep, that's exactly right. In fact, I even went to a website this morning and applied to review 4 or 5 different things. So it's a really easy process once you start doing it. A lot of people just don't start. So that's the hard thing, is just getting set up, and it takes maybe 20 minutes to just enter in your profile and get started, and then you'll start reviewing things. So it's really not that hard.
You need to tell me more. So now going to your third, so this is going to be your third book, Unlocking the Power of Transformation, which is coming this year. So why you wrote this book?
This one is, so all my other books and a lot of the things that I write are just answers to questions. People will ask me, how did you do that? Why did you do that? And I just answer the questions. Unlocking the Power of Transformation also answers a question, but it's a lot more autobiographical, just because the question that I'm answering on this one is, how did I transform my physical body? A lot of people have been asking me because a few years ago, I lost 100 pounds in a year. And I went from not being able to run a mile without walking to this last fall running a double marathon, 52.4 miles.
Amen.
So,
Wow. That's amazing.
so people want to know, well, what did you do? How did you finally make the change? I'd been obese my whole adult life. And so I started writing out the changes that I'd made in my life to see that transformation. But then the cool thing, as I was starting to write about it, was I realized that the process for my own transformation was the same process that I'd used to have success as a sports writer. It's the same process I'd used to make thousands of dollars writing product reviews. It's the same process I'd used to land celebrity clients for web design and start working with a lot of celebrities. It's the same process I've used just this summer in starting virtual school assembly and connecting with hundreds of influential people for that channel. And so as I started writing all these stories out, I started making the connections on why did it work. And that's my formula for transformation. And so the book, Unlocking the Power of Transformation, is where I share my stories, but I also share the formula for why things worked and why other things didn't. So it was a joy to write. I'm really excited to finally be publishing it. I was going to publish it last year, but then had a TED Talk that derailed it because I was preparing to give my TED Talk, and then coronavirus came, and so I pushed off the publication date further, but it's finally going to come out this summer.
Awesome. Well done. Well done. I'm so curious about either the link for the reviews, but your book is more into my mind now. I'm really excited too. I'm waiting. And also the TED Talk. So your TED Talk is going to be before the book release?
No, actually, so what happened with the TED Talk is last year I started doing a lot more speaking engagements. People would ask me to come share my story. And so as I was doing that, I was doing a lot of research on, again, my own transformation story. And one of the awesome findings that I found was that when we exercise, so most of the weight loss for me was because I changed my diet. But people will say, you can't outrun a bad diet or whatever, but I love to run. And so as I was changing my life, I was losing weight because my diet changed, but I was being more productive because of my exercise. And so I started doing research on the impact of exercise on our brain. And what I found was that when we exercise, it activates certain part of our brains, especially those areas that have to do with long-term memory. So I started doing experiments in my classroom where I would have my students just throughout the day do different exercises. We would dance, we would do jumping jacks, we'd play different games. And what happened was, as we introduced more and more exercise into our daily routine in the school, my students' test scores went up and they started remembering things better. And we started saving time because we didn't need to spend as much time going over instruction. The students were retaining the information better. So we had more time to have fun and to do different games in the classroom. And so that idea that exercise improves memory and improves learning was an idea that I wanted to share. So I sought out the TED stage, and I started reaching out to organizers all over the country. And I had a few that were interested in my talk, and then decided to work with one in California, in San Francisco. And so the talk was scheduled for March of this year in San Francisco. And San Francisco was one of the first cities in the US hit by the coronavirus. So while I was traveling to get there, I was halfway there. I had gone up to northern Utah for an academic conference. And while I was there at my hotel, they called and said that the TED event had been canceled. So I never gave my TED talk. I ended up sharing that talk and continue to share the talk on YouTube, but I gave it to a few schools and was able to record it. So I've posted it on my YouTube channel. But haven't actually given a TED Talk, and it looks like they're not going to reschedule that event. So I'll have to look at other TED events if I want to give it.
You will get your place there, I'm sure.
I hope so.
If you want, it's gonna be open that door again, because it's yours already. It's yours, and I'm sure you're gonna smash everything. Everyone is gonna. Oh my God! I just love your story, and I love the process. Since you started, when you start to teach, and now the way you learn so many things, and you've done so many things, and it just makes me believe more and more in the way that people, if you give yourself time and and desire as well. You have to get a vision, right, to
Right.
create things. And you're just an example for anyone that is listening this podcast today, because it's just unbelievable. And you got 4 kids, right?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
It's not. It's quite. It's like a team football team. It's quite a lot of kids to manage so many things, and of course helping your wife with your kids. And on the same time, your daughter has asthma, which is something that you always need to be worried about it and do your best so she can breathe properly, like you said before. Amazing. So
Yeah, well, the kids actually make life easier, I think. So 4 kids is a lot, but they're who ground me. They're who give me purpose and meaning. And so it's a lot easier to work hard on the projects that I do, because I know that it's not just for them, but I involve them in it. They work with me on my businesses. And it's one of those things that we have loved working together and growing together. So 4 kids isn't so bad. It's probably easier than not having kids.
I don't believe it's bad. It's a blessed. It's not just easy, because I've got 1 and I know it's not easy, but imagine 4. But all this, because you're always creating, like an entrepreneur. We are entrepreneurs, and we, in the middle of creating, you have a family to care as well. So it is more than like, you deserve to be on TED Talk, but it's not just for your business, it's for the man you are. That's amazing. What about you? Do you have a YouTube page as well, right? Channel?
Yeah, so I mentioned that just briefly. That's the project that I'm working on right now. So once coronavirus hit, I put everything else aside. I put my own speaking aside. I put my own writing aside, and went all in on this idea of virtual school assembly. My students were kind of stressed out, and I didn't know how to help them because now they were home and I was home. And so I would communicate with them on Zoom, and I would send them video messages from YouTube. But I wanted to do a little bit more. So I decided to start getting the best assembly speakers that I could find. So I went around the country and the whole world actually to look for the best assembly speakers and asked them if they would do a free assembly on a new YouTube channel, talking to my students and to students throughout the world just to inspire them and encourage them during the coronavirus.
Wow.
And the response has been phenomenal. We actually, the last episode for season 1 is going up today. So we've done 50 episodes in just over a month. And I've interviewed players in the NFL and the NBA, Olympians, Hollywood actors and actresses, directors, the best speakers in the country, a bunch of professional speakers that charge a really high fee. They've been on the channel. And then educators, superintendents, principals, and teachers. And we just have these phenomenal interviews where I have these celebrities on and they just share messages of hope and encouragement. And so I have a YouTube channel for that. It's called Virtual School Assembly. And as we wrap up today, I'm still recording. In fact, I have 4 more interviews today for Virtual School Assembly, but those will be for the next season that starts in August. So we're planning on continuing into next year. And it has been a wonderful experience just being able to interview a lot of influential people and have messages of hope and encouragement. So yeah, definitely check out the YouTube channel. We can link to it from the podcast.
Fabulous. So that's the reason, because you said, because with the corona you had before the school assembly without being virtual, but then you had to launch on virtual. That's correct?
Right. Yeah, well, part of it was that I had been doing a lot of assemblies because people want to hear my story. And when the TED Talk was canceled and a bunch of my other speaking engagements were canceled, I thought, well, I can't go to the schools, but maybe I can virtually go to the schools and still share my message with people. And so that's where the idea came from. And, you know, we've just been going full speed ahead with it, and it's been a great experience.
Such a pleasure to have you here and listen to this story. Amazing, Tyler. Really, thank you so much. So I've been asking you if you have a YouTube and so, but I'm going to ask you, my final question is, how can people connect with you and find more about your work? So all the places where they can find you.
Yeah, so, well, and that's for the easiest thing for me is just to go to my website, tylerchristensen.com, and Christensen is spelled E-N-S-E-N, and that will link to all my different things. Because if you want to go to my review things, for example, I have, social handles for reviews of cool stuff. And I have 50,000 Twitter followers and 10,000 Instagram followers. So I have a social presence with reviews. But if you want to go to my sports stuff, then you want to go to D1 Recruiting. If you want to go to my speaking page, then I have different links that will take you to my YouTube page for speaking or for virtual school assembly. So the best place is just to go to tylerchristensen.com, and I'll connect everything from there.
Right, that's really good. All this information about the links of Tyler links will be on the description of the podcast when it comes live, and you can get yourself connected. This is for my listeners, Tyler. Thank you so much for joining me, and thanks for sharing your story. I'm so excited about your TED Talk, but especially about your Unlocking the Power of Transformation book that is coming, and also the reviews. You see how I know these things very well now, because you told me very, very good things to learning, to develop, to grow myself and others as well that are listening. Thank you, Tyler. I hope you continuously improve and develop and reach more kids, more students, and with your potential, with what you're doing right now. And God bless you and bless your family as well.
Thank you, Yola. It's been a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you.
You're welcome. You take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Hello. Once again, I want to say thank you for joining us on our podcast episode. We came to the end of this episode, but we will have another episode next week. So don't forget, follow us so you can catch the next one. You take care, and I speak with you next week. Bye.